get the clink for life or the electric chair, but I don't want to die a virgin.
Welcome to Davy's Take. Today we are talking about Lisa Frankenstein, the new Frankenstein movie. A coming-of-rage love story about a teenager and her crush who happens to be a corpse. After a set of circumstances bring him back to life, the two embark on a journey to find love, happiness, and a few missing body parts. One thing I need to preference before I talk about this film is I know nothing about Frankenstein, nothing about the lore. I know pretty much the face value stuff about Frankenstein. And that's really about it. I've seen some versions of Frankenstein in film. I saw Young Frankenstein a long time ago, and recently I saw Poor Things, and Poor Things was one of my favorite films of the year. But honestly, I went into this film thinking like, all right, another Frankenstein movie. I don't know how much this can really do to win me over, but it looks like it could be a fun time, so let's give it a shot. This film is interesting to me because there are things throughout the film that I actually thought were done pretty well, I thought were pretty funny, and there are parts where I was really enjoying myself. But then there are parts throughout the film that I found frustrating because I was extremely uncomfortable, and that is not what the film was going for. 100% get what this film is going for. It's supposed to be a dark teen horror comedy, and there are parts, like I said, throughout the film I think are really effective. But then there are parts that just felt really awkward, and I could split those two feelings into two different categories. One form of awkwardness I felt in this film was cringe, because there were sequences throughout the film that just didn't feel right when it came to some of the editing, some of the shots, and some of the performances. And the other form of awkwardness I felt, which I guess is pretty much the same thing as cringe, is I felt uncomfortable because this film really has a hard time trying to decide if you're supposed to root for your protagonist or not. Look, there are some violent things that happen throughout the film, and I would say for the most part, those people got what they deserved. But there are parts where I felt like how our character reacted to those acts of violence around other characters, it almost just felt really cruel and really mean. It's hard to explain what I'm talking about without spoiling anything. I will do my best. I promise I won't spoil anything. And I do get this is a teen dark comedy. I get like that's the point. You're not really supposed to be rooting for a protagonist because she's doing things that honestly are unforgivable. And by the last shot of the film, you understand that's what the film is going for, and you understand that throughout the film. But there are parts with some sequences where characters are having conversations with one another, where it's supposed to be funny, you're supposed to be laughing, but it just doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel funny. It feels almost disturbing because of some of the things our characters have done. And like I said, don't get me wrong, there are people in this film that definitely deserve what they got, specifically someone with a hand. I get that. Those parts were funny. Those parts I was laughing. But there are other things that happen where I'm just sitting there like, ugh, you're kind of a fucking scumbag for this. This isn't funny. And then it feels like the film is trying so hard to make the situation funny, but just isn't. But I didn't totally hate this film because like I said before, there are parts where I really was enjoying myself. There are parts that are very funny. There are some sequences that play out really well. And the style overall just feels like a lot of fun. It feels fresh. And I do appreciate that. It really felt like someone had their own specific vision for this, and I really applaud that. That's really cool. But it just felt like this film was tonally all over the place. It was trying so hard to laugh at the things our protagonists are doing, but also at the same time feel sympathy for them, but it's really hard to do those things at the same time. Not saying it's impossible. There are films that have done that in the past, but here I feel like this film doesn't really pull that off. But like I said, if you're looking forward to this film, I think there are parts that are enjoyable enough that you will have a fun time. But if you're on the fence about this film or you really don't want to see this film, you can probably sit this one out. I'm going to give Lisa Frankenstein 5 Davey Daves. I gotta say, throughout the film, Catherine Newton had some good comedic timing. I thought she did a pretty good job. And Cole Sprouse, there's things he had to do silently, and I thought he pulled it off for the most part. But if you're expecting the Cole Sprouse show, you might be disappointed. So, Lisa Frankenstein, let me know what you guys thought of it once you've seen it. I'm curious to hear, and thank you so much for watching. Click here to see more of Davy's Takes.